Kari first met Allan while having a Why We Hate Men session with a girlfriend. Despite his long hair, hippie looks and bad dress sense, he landed a job as Suncoast Christian Academy's first high school teacher.
I had one teacher, but we needed a high school teacher as well.
Alan Taylor came up unexpectedly from somewhere and offered himself to Neil as a teacher.
And turned up in his beat-up bomb, hair all messed up from surfing and with his surfboard strapped to his car, and heard that I was looking for a teacher. I was talking to Alan for a while. He said, look, he said, I'm very, very sorry. He said, I don't have my resume with me. And he said, but I can get it sent to you. I said, look, it's no good sending me your resume because I wouldn't know how to read it to start with.
The only question Neil had to ask him was, are you born again? And Alan assured him that he was.
I said, you're hired. He said, what? I said, you're hired. And I think it blew him out of his tree, but it was good enough for me. And it must have been a God thing because Alan was there for a long, long, long time.
Oh, I think I'll get my ears cleaned out this side. Glory to God.
After about 5 years of being involved in the school, I became the principal. And I guess it was mainly because I had a heart and a vision for Christian education. Certainly my experience was fairly lacking, but I did that for about 3.5 years. Neil Myers came up with this idea. The slogan was, love is the main ingredient. And that's what always excited me, was we were there to love kids, to love people, and to see kids grow into Christian leaders.
Allan started staying at the Sherwills while Kari was living in Brisbane, doing music therapy at a psychiatric hospital. Fran and Bob remember how Pastor Neil Myers prophesied that Allan would become Kari's husband. You have to be joking, was Fran's response, while Bob's was, Neil, give me a break. After Kari returned to the coast, she got to know Allan while attending youth meetings. The lounge room of the Sherwell family home in Isabella Avenue, Nambour, was the birthplace for the Christian Outreach Centre movement on the Sunshine Coast. Kari's dad, Bob, was a passionate youth leader who always had someone staying at his home. Around that time, Kari had been going out with a tall, dark and well-dressed Italian guy, but she knew he was only going to church for her, not God. In the end, it was Allan's love for Jesus rather than his board shorts, bad t-shirts and scungy thongs which won Kari's heart over. After a youth camp at Touchikoi, Allan returned to Bob, declaring, "Brother, I've fallen in love with your daughter. I want to marry her." Bob's response was to look down on him and exclaim with a deep voice, "Do you?" Kari and Allan were married on September 20, 1980, in the backyard of the Sherwills' home. 150 guests joined the wedding reception at the Big Pineapple, then one of the best places on the coast for big functions. Living in a little house on the school property, life was never boring, with water fights, epic mud wrestling encounters and billy cart races down the hill.
One of the things I loved at the end of every year was we'd get mangoes and watermelon and everybody would feast, and that was great. But the school always had a water fight. I mean, a serious water fight. Everybody involved, staff, the works. There were 2 staff who didn't want to get involved one year, and they were hiding inside. And as the principal, I was a little bit horrified to find the kids up on the roof with a full garbage can of water, waiting for those teachers to come out. The water fights were a tremendous highlight. Every year we used to do the same thing. We had food fights, we had mud fights.
Ah, mud people. Terrible. I used to live on the property here in a little house just over from the church, and there was all red mud because it had rained, red mud everywhere. And so Allan decided that he and the students would have a mud fight. I could see what was going to happen, so I retreated into my little house and locked the doors because I knew they wanted me in the red mud. Next thing, my whole little house is surrounded by students and my husband going, "We know you're in there, you've got to come out." And they were just covered with red mud right from the top to the bottom.
Kari and Allan's first child, Ashlea, was born on July 30, 1987. In 1990, Allan, Kari and Ashlea spent a year in Canada, with Kari teaching ballet and Allan working in a high school. In 1994, their son Callan was the best present the Taylors could hope for, arriving on Christmas Day. The Taylors built a home on Hobbs Road, North Buderim, below the Sherwells, and lived there for the next 17 years. It allowed many precious moments for the extended family, something Bob and Fran will always treasure. In recent years, Ashleigh and Kari have spent many hours sitting on the end of the bed, talking about life, boys, aspirations and God. Allan was a walking and living Bible for his kids, always having an answer for them or just showing them the way. Despite his super busy life, Allan would set aside an afternoon or evening each week to take Callan surfing or to the movies. Just like he was with everyone else, Allan was always joking at home, jumping out from behind corners, pulling faces, cracking jokes, and running around in his underwear, shaking his bottom. He was always after a reaction. The house was always filled with so many people and so many laughs.